Indiana, we are simply passing through history. This is history.
Welcome to the Young Indy Chroniclers, a podcast about the making of the show, The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which first aired on ABC in 1992.
Kept thinking about what was Indiana Jones like as a young man. I came up with this idea of him seeing the world through the eyes of a soldier and a secret agent.
Over the course of our podcast, we're going to talk to a whole host of very talented people who either worked on this show or were there from the beginning.
We were able to shoot it on location in the real places where these events took place.
Oh, make it up as you go. Oh boy, that's great advice.
We hired some of the best European directors, a whole host of very, very talented people.
I'm your host, Peter Holmstrom.
And I'm Daniel Noah, and this is the Young Indy Chroniclers.
There's only one rule, Indiana. Stay alive.
Welcome back to the Young Indy Chroniclers, the only podcast focusing specifically on the Young Indiana Jones television series and franchise. My name is Daniel Noah.
And my name is Peter Holmstrom.
We've spent a lot of time on the show talking about the release of the series and the context in which it occurred.
Today's show, we are thrilled to have not one, but two interviews to discuss the early marketing of Young Indiana Jones.
Our first guest comes from the world I spend most of my time working in, which is the world of network television marketing. Patricia Connolly was a senior producer in the ABC marketing department throughout the 1990s and spent 26 years at the company. And she has many stories to tell both about the business of television marketing, but also how her career intersected with the release of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Patricia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Patricia, would you be able to just maybe explain to our audience first, like what you did, what your job was, and then, how you started that job?
Well, just like most people that really want to move on in life, I started in the accounting department. I used to pay the announcers that narrated the ABC promos, as in Ernie Anderson, whose famous line was always, "On the Love Boat."
Tonight, things you've never seen on That's Incredible. Then at 9, it's The Love Boat, followed by a special 2020 report on wet T-shirt contests. Then, Jennifer goes undercover as a model on Heart to Heart. At 11, it's The Love Boat again, followed by a recently discovered episode of The Winds of War.
All right.
Remember, That's Incredible, The Love Boat. 2020, Heart to Heart, and The Love Boat again. And The Winds of War.
And then the lovely Richard Tufeld, whose biggest claim to fame is that he was the voice of the robot in the original Lost in Space series.
I'm saying, warning, warning, it will not compute, and danger, Will Robinson, and aliens approaching. And he said, no, that's not it. Try it again. And now, in my best mechanical, robotian kind of sound, I say, warning, warning, it will not compute. Danger, Will Robinson. And Irwin looks up, and his eyes get wide, and he says, my God, that's the approach I wanted. What the hell took you so long?
Temper.
And he did daytime promos.
On General Hospital, the knifer strikes again.
So that was my beginning in that marketing department.
There's passion and madness. General Hospital, weekdays.
How did you get from accounting to producing? That's a big part of the story.
I had a background. I had gone to school. I had a degree in broadcast communications, and there was an opening in production being a coordinator. And so there were several people that threw their hat in the ring, and I applied for it and I got it. So I moved up from there. I did production coordinating, and from there I was an associate producer in post-production. And from there, I eased into actually writing and producing promos.
And what kind of shows were you doing promos for at the time?
I spent most of my career doing soap operas. I also did Saturday morning cartoons when they still aired on ABC. So I ended up with the Young Indiana Jones project, I think because they figured, oh, she knows how to sell to kids, because it was kind of a random assignment. But Every spring, the broadcast networks basically buy a lot of pilots. They might go on the air, they might not, but they're all given to people in the promotion department to cut a sales clip. Sometimes if you've cut a sales clip and programming people like it, they'll really change their minds about, we might have been iffy on the show, but they can sell it, so it might do well. Indiana Jones, to me, was clearly a bought show based on how the footage that was available to me in order to cut an advertising segment to show to potential advertisers to buy time in the show. I had interviews with George Lucas on film, and then I had film that was obviously shot all over the world with both the younger version of Indy and then the older version of Indy.
The overall themes that evolved for the 10-year-old is an intellectual coming of age. And for the older boy, the 16-year-old, it's an emotional coming of age.
So I had pretty much what I had to work with. They didn't send me a whole show. They just sent me clips of what they had. And I just put it together, and it was either going to make it or not. But it was pretty clear to me that they were going to buy it no matter what. And they did. They just didn't put it on when I thought they were going to put it on. But I have a very vague memory, but I feel like there were production problems in shooting or getting footage. So I have a feeling that's why they delayed putting it on the air until almost a year later.
So when you say that it was delayed, when do you recall it was originally going to air? Or when did you see this footage?
Well, it was part of what is known as the fall announcement meeting, and that happens every May. It happens with all of the broadcast networks, and they announce usually sometime in mid-May what their schedule is going to be, and it was announced at that meeting. I don't recall that it was given a time slot at that point, but it was announced at that meeting. It not going on the air until the following spring was a little odd.
So this would have been the May of 1991?
Correct.
And it was announced as if it was going to be on, say, September of 1991.
Correct.
So this does fit in with a lot of our own kind of supposition is, we look at even those early promos that I imagine you did. It includes a lot of footage for episodes that aren't even included in season 1. And our idea is that initially the first season was meant to be like 15 episodes, and ultimately it gets pared back to just 6.
Yeah, and again, I think it was basically because they didn't have the footage shot, or they had difficulty getting what they wanted. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'm trying to remember like what was going on in the world at that time as well, because they were shooting all over the world. So it could have been something as simple as that. A location we need is not available to us. I don't know.
Do you recall, was there a sense or a kind of a vibe that you got when the show was announced at that May meeting? Like, was this seen as a high-profile show that was hoping to do very well? Was this seen as just a spin-off? Like, oh, God, it's a movie series. It's turned into TV, oh, boy. What was kind of the vibe?
Well, first of all, I wasn't at the meeting. The meeting actually takes place in New York, and I was not in New York. Secondly, there were some technical snafus with the presentation that I sent. And the person that was running the meeting at the time decided not to air this video, audio and video presentation. It wasn't up to his standards.
We'll raise the bar by raising the quality level. We'll raise the bar by providing things that are different, that haven't been done before.
So I was sent back to correct it as best I could, and the technical difficulties could not be overcome. So I honestly don't know if anybody other than myself and a handful of people ever saw that clip. Don't know for sure.
Do you recall it was just show footage and you said an interview? Was that sort of like an EP, what we call an EPK style video?
Yes. It was definitely scripted. It was George Lucas talking. It looked like it was shot probably at the Skywalker Ranch in Marin County. He was definitely, I recall he was outside. It was shot outside. So it was sort of like, I realized that what I was being given was, here is the message I have that I want to put forward, and all you need to do is sort of put it together. Okay.
So then the video, you said, didn't end up being played at the meeting.
It did not.
And so was the series even actually announced for the fall at that point? I mean, if you even know.
I think it was.
Okay.
I believe that it was. They just talked about it. And again, I wasn't at the meeting. I wasn't in attendance at the meeting. So it was just talked about. They didn't really run any of the footage. So they more than likely had slides, because they could have had slides of like the two actors. So they may have done something like that and a little bit of artwork and then just talked about it. I really don't know.
And in this time period, we're talking essentially about like Betamax tape, sort of the workflow of what you were working in?
Wow. Good question. I don't know. It could have still been on 1-inch at that point. Very possible.
Just I'm always curious about those things. There's a lot of work goes into what people who do that job now do, but so much more mechanical work in those days with the tape workflows and the A to B editing. And I'm always just very impressed. And even the sound work that you talked about, having to sync that to tape and get all that right was just a lot of work. And I know I had a job once at a company that had been around for a few decades, and they would tell stories about having to have production trucks and doing, tape edits in the back of a truck overnight so that something can be ready the next day. And that sort of thing always just sort of impressed me, and the dedication that goes into that.
I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day. I said, there's something about the part of the entertainment industry that I worked in that people might know for 3 weeks that they need something in an audio-visual package to back up whatever they're going to talk about at a meeting, that they call you 48 hours before. So the next thing you know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, you've worked all through the night, and you're dropping off a tape at your boss's house on your way home. So let me know what you think of this. I'm going home to sleep for a few hours. And you're crossing your fingers that they like it. So there's always fires to put out, was my point. That's all, always.
Yeah, it was something I almost brought up when you mentioned your experience doing promos for soap operas, because soap operas have such a quick turnaround, just even in terms of filming. So I imagine doing the promos for those would be even a quicker turnaround than that.
It is and it isn't. I'd say in the last 20 years, and as you know, that genre of television is shrinking rapidly.
I've used several different smears, Mike. And every time I get the same result.
They kind of were basically told to, it used to be a cash cow for the network. They were all told to tighten your belt. You're not making the kind of money for us you used to. So they started shooting in such a way that they always were like 3 weeks ahead, sometimes 4, sometimes more. And then they would give the crew a week off at a time. So there were salaries that didn't have to be paid. Actors get paid by the air show as opposed to the day's work kind of thing. So they would shoot multiple shows over an 8, 10, 12-hour day, put it all together. But everybody knew down the road they were going to get a week off, just because then the editing had to start. So,
how's the search going, Captain? Any word on St. Clair?
Still no sign of him. He's probably long gone by now.
And I suppose, depending upon the test results, you might have to call off the search altogether, huh?
That's why I'm here.
What I can't figure out is, with all the new evidence pointing to a stronger suspect, why you're wasting your time anyway.
It's not a waste of time, Peter. Until an arrest is made, no suspect will be dismissed. The search continues. And you're excused, Captain.
Yes, Commander.
when I first started in soaps, I used to get line feed, and there were times I literally would have 16 hours of footage of something that was probably going to air for, 2 or 3 episodes. And I don't even know, 10 minutes in each show. I'm not even sure. So when it came to a point where I had a schedule and they could send you edited tapes, it was way better.
This many stings. Who knows who would have saved them?
Well, I can't believe he was sleeping with the windows open with no screens. I mean, that's like an engraved invitation to the bugs, right?
And that was in the 90s, that transition?
I want to say it was a little bit later than that.
That's cool.
I think it was a little bit later than that. It was sort of, there came a time when soaps were not really carrying the load. Once upon a time in network television, everybody's salaries were paid because of soap operas and late night, like David Letterman and Jay Leno and so forth. Those were the shows that no matter what, no matter how bad the ratings were in primetime, they could sell time to advertisers on those shows and make enough money to do what they had to do. When soap operas got a little bit more expensive and so forth, and they were like, okay, you guys need to tighten your budgets and, make a tighter taping schedule.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Forrester. Whatever you needed to talk to him about, it's not going to happen now.
So after the Young Indy tape you did, did you have any interaction with the series when you were at ABC?
I did not, because I wasn't in that particular area, obviously. And as you probably know, when you work on something that takes all of your time, you don't go home and say, gee, you know what? I think I'm going to watch Young Indy Chronicles tonight. So it would have been something I wouldn't have had time to watch at work. I would have had to watch it at home. But I can tell you that there are several young people, well, young to me, young people in my life that liked it. And I was talking to one of them last night saying, tell me what you liked about Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. And he said, I liked it because he was kind of a superhero guy, but he was a real guy.
What are you looking so pleased about? This whole damn trip's wasted. That letter is worthless.
I have a feeling this one isn't.
To the British, Belgian, and French governments, I, His Imperial Majesty Emperor Karl of Austria-Hungary, do hereby sue for peace, in return for which I'm willing to grant the following concessions.
He didn't have X-ray vision. He didn't have a cape. He didn't, shoot spider webs out of his hand. He was just a normal guy that solved problems.
That's great. And he can speak languages. That's our joke. That's his superpower.
Speak languages.
Yes.
Speak any language.
Do you recall, I know I've worked at some companies that will, have oftentimes they're like the products they're really trying to push. You can tell there's a presence in the office for these items. There's posters on the wall, whatever. I'm curious. Do you recall at the time do you feel like ABC really felt this was our golden goose of a show, or was it kind of?
I think it was a prestige project because Lucas was tied to it, and I believe the reason it was even greenlighted is because I believe George Lucas brought it to the company. I don't know if Spielberg was involved, but George Lucas was the guy that sent the footage and did the interview on tape. Or on film, I should say. So I believe it was the prestige of being able to use his name on a show they were airing.
I think the point you bring up is very well founded. This was kind of the time of the networks like to have big name filmmakers attached to television shows. Tales from the Crypt, it was Richard Donner, it was Robert Zemeckis, Amazing Stories with Steven Spielberg. And so it's very easy to see how ABC could be like, well, Young Indy that's our George Lucas show. That's.
I think that's exactly it. I think that they were just sort of like, okay, he's willing to take a chance on us. And I think it's kind of interesting that relationship obviously stayed intact for a very long time because he ultimately sold Star Wars to the company to what later became the parent company of ABC. And that gentleman was running ABC when it was still ABC, and now he's running Disney. So they have a relationship, I'm sure.
Today, I am proud to announce the Walt Disney Company is acquiring Lucasfilm, the global entertainment company founded by George Lucas and the home of the legendary Star Wars franchise.
You know, it'll give me a chance to go off and explore my own interests, at the same time feel completely confident that Disney, will take good care of the franchise I've built. The main reason I brought Kathy on is, rather than quit, I wanted to have it move forward, but I needed somebody I trusted who could take that franchise and make it work the way I intended it to.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of backtrack a little bit to the footage you got sent of George on the ranch. I've seen a few of these kind of materials in the past. I mean, the one that comes to mind is kind of the Rod Serling one for the Twilight Zone, where he kind of walks you through some of the episodes they're going to highlight and kind of shows you props and things. Or, Walt Disney is another one. He kind of, talks you through these things. Do you have any recollection of like what was kind of the tone or the tenor of the footage that you received?
George Lucas is a very serious man. He is not warm and fuzzy. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes, I don't think anyone will take issue with that comment.
He's not a warm and fuzzy guy. So to put him in an analogy of Walt Disney, no, that is not the vibe he gives off. He was definitely enthusiastic about the product, but it was more, he was also he was selling the concept as well. I mean, not that he had to. He already had an established concept.
What do you think is going on here? Since I met you, I've nearly been incinerated, drowned, shot at, and chopped into fish bait. We're caught in the middle of something sinister here. My guess is Dad found out more than he was looking for. And until I'm sure, I'm going to continue to do things the way I think they should be done.
But I think he was trying to sell it as, yes, we're going to go around the world, we're going to show. And again, it sort of was, to me, it was a show that kids should be watching. Because it was geography from all over the world. It was historical points from all over time.
What did you really expect to find here last night? A lot of raving lunatics? Holy rollers speaking in tongues?
I thought of it as, here's entertainment that will teach you something. And I kind of feel like maybe that's how he looked at it. I'm not sure. But he is very attached to his creations. How's that?
Absolutely.
So he was putting it in the best light possible and why it would be such a good series.
You feel like the way it was shot, that he knew that this video was sort of for a sales presentation for the advertisers, and he was sort of speaking to them?
I'm not really sure. I think that, weirdly, the concession was, let's go shoot it outside. There was no tour of sets. There was no props. It was just him on camera. And then in an additional reel is where he sent me footage of the child Indy and the young adult Indy. Those were all on different reels. So George Just Talking was George Just Talking.
Now you say reels. I'm just curious. Would you have been sent actual film reels, or would they have all transferred thanks to tape that you received?
That I believe, I don't know who transferred that, but I have a feeling that was already transferred. The interview came in as film, I believe. And if it didn't, it came in on something. I remember thinking, okay, I'm not sure. Something about it was different to me. So it was either a newer technology or it was shot on something that I didn't normally deal with. Again, I wasn't the person that went and sat in the telecine chain and watch them transfer it. I have no idea. That was all done, bless their hearts, by lovely people who worked all night and did things like this. So all I had was, here is what's been transferred, and here it is on a lesser quality tape so that you can edit a presentation together. And then when we go and put it in its final form, we'll do it from the source material.
I learned editing right at the tail end of the tape era, so I have a certain nostalgic fondness for the online and offline editing and all that stuff.
We've just seen 4 hours of film. How much more of this is he planning on shooting?
He thought up 3 new scenes this morning.
It's just really fascinating and fascinating to get that peek behind a process that was clearly, in its early days, and I know that, and I think I mentioned this off camera, so to speak. One of our earlier interviews was with someone who did work on sound for the series, and he wasn't hired until the summer of 91, which is after, this presentation that you told us about. So it's interesting that a lot of the post-production and a lot of the pipeline for the show perhaps was not even ready, in May of 1991, and that they were still sort of staffing up. It almost shines a light on sort of the pre-picture of the production of the series that we haven't really gotten a view into yet.
I wish I knew if any of that still exists. I really have no idea. And I really don't know if ABC archived everything or just sort of said, yeah, we're never going to need this again, and erased it. I mean, there are many, many things in the history of broadcast that has happened to. There were shows that were stored in New York, different broadcast shows. And they used to give some of the shows that they didn't care about, they'd give the tape to the guys in sports to do their slow-mo records or that sort of thing. And all of a sudden you'd be watching something and here's like an Olympic sport, and you're watching a soap opera, or you're supposedly watching an old soap opera, and it's like, wait, what happened? Oh, we use that as our work reel.
Hey, don't spaz.
Yeah, don't spaz.
Nobody asked you to sit here.
Hey, chill out. This is like friendly, no? Yeah, friendly.
It's terrible.
I doubt it's in the museum, the Broadcasting Museum in New York, though. That's all I'm telling you.
Well, one day we're going to make an official request to the Walt Disney Archives for all this stuff, but we're not there yet. But whatever's there, we'll find.
Well, that would be nice. Good luck to you.
If they say no, we might just break in. I don't know. That sounds like fun. Do a little heist.
I know where it is. We'll go. We'll sneak in. Yep.
Honestly, I wonder where all that stuff is. It used to exist on the Prospect Lot in Hollywood, and the Prospect Lot has hardly any ABC stuff at all anymore. They've kind of condensed everybody into that large building in Burbank, like right off the freeway. So I don't know if that used to be the West Coast version of Day of Air, and it's where they did commercial integration, they did dubs, they did everything you can imagine in that building. And now I don't even know that there's anything in there. No idea.
You're talking about they used to do the Day of Air stuff in the Tower or at Prospect?
No, at Prospect.
At Prospect.
At Prospect, yeah.
I know that they still have the location. I worked at Disney for a time, and I never made it to the Prospect studio, but I know it was a working facility and stuff was going on there. But I know some production, but besides that, I don't know.
I have to say that as I understand it, since the pandemic and the shutdown and everybody went home and started working from home, on-air promotion is not there, and they were one of the last, that and sort of and I don't even know what to call it, because sort of the day of the regular operations for a long time was, I believe, just being fed from New York. I think that LA was more of a standby situation, but now, as I understand it, it's all on servers somewhere in Texas.
I have heard that. I think the tech center that used to belong to Fox, I think Disney got it in the purchase, so that actually makes sense. They'd consolidate there. Well, Pat, what are you up to now? What fills your time and what are your passions?
Actually, Daniel, I am happily retired. Today I went out and did one of my beauty appointments. It's a very, very simple life.
And you worked at ABC, you said, for 26 years?
I did, yeah.
And did you retire because it was time, or what was your feeling when you were done?
Well, I'm going to try and put this nicely as possible. My parents could no longer live alone. Therefore, I left my job early and moved to take care of them. So when I hit a certain age and I qualified, then I officially retired. But it's probably the best job I've ever done.
Well, I'm glad then that you left ABC for a better job and a more fulfilling job. I'm sure there's a lot of people there now who would love to do that too.
Yes, I would think so. I appreciate that you actually wanted to talk to me about this, and my only other contribution to you would be about Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but I'm not going to go down that road.
What? No. Well, now you have to. You can't tease the audience.
Look who's brewing up trouble on TGIF. No broomsticks.
You'll learn to control your magic. One more try. Oh.
No pointy hats.
You're an even bigger freak than I thought. Cool.
No warts on the nose.
Don't come in here again. You use the freak's bathroom. I love being a witch.
Sabrina, the Teenage Witch.
Every school needs a weird kid.
The magic is on. TGIF 2 weeks from Friday.
Might as well be me.
No, that was another sales presentation, and it was definitely pre-bought. There was no mistaking that was going on the air. And all what they gave me to work with was a movie that had aired on Showtime.
Hey, there you are. There's a bunch of us going up to Lookout Point. Let's go. Well, it'll be fun. And, let's get to know each other a little better.
Well, I sort of promised Harvey I'd have a dance with him.
We'll be back in lots of time, I promise. Just get time.
And it was kind of funny. The guy that I worked for in my area was a person that always wanted you to be driving around at night and finding the next garage band that was going to be signed to a record deal.
Oh.
He wanted the hippest, freshest music ever. The person above him, who ultimately had the say, liked music from a certain window in time. So no matter what you put together, there was always music problems. So I don't even remember how many times I revised this thing. I feel like I stopped counting at 17.
Are you coming?
Well, no, I thought I was a free man.
One of the things was change this music, change that music. So you try and do something that you thought the one boss was going to like, and you do that, and it would get to the other boss, and he'd say, no, you need to use something. You need to use, like, It's Magic by ELO right here. Oh, you didn't like this Prince song that I picked? Okay. But it's a little fresher. No, I want you to do this, this, and this. So it's very funny. Everybody has their own ideas.
Behind every great witch is a cat.
You're in a chat room again pretending to be a woman, aren't you?
I like the attention.
Could I ask a kind of a broader question for you? Just, looking back, I feel like a lot of people who are maybe listening to this or whatever are more familiar with the streaming era, where things such as like selling a show to advertisers is kind of a very foreign concept. And even though I think we're probably moving back in that direction now as an industry, but like, I wonder if you could just talk like broadly, like, what was the point of these sort of sales presentations? Was it, and also because it's like, this wasn't just for Was this for nationwide advertisers? Was this also meant for like
Oh,
regional
yes.
advertisers? Like, how did this all break down?
Okay, the first announced what they call, what is it? Help me, Daniel.
I think you're talking about upfronts.
Thank you. Yes, upfronts. Thank you. That's exactly the word I was trying to search for. Thank you.
We're here at the NBC Upfront to catch up with the NBC stars. They told us who they're most looking forward to meeting here today at the Upfront and their summer plans.
The upfronts are the first meeting that happened. They happen in May. Prior to that, depending on who in your company is in charge of taking care of marketing materials, you take, let's say you have 26 pilots. You're going to have 26 producers working on 26 pilots. They're all going to try and cut 3-minute presentations to sell the concept.
Okay, everybody, listen up.
You want to be a lifeguard? This is the real deal.
These are the best ocean rescue teams on planet Earth. You are now a part of that.
I thought you said this job was easy.
At that time, you could use any music you wanted, but it was just a very long promo, just very similar to what you did every day, just longer in length. And it was shown to a lot of people. It was then they would have these sort of committee meetings where all the programming people got together and they would watch the pilot, and then they would also watch your presentation, and then they could make comments about what they thought worked and what they thought didn't work and what you could change and so forth and so on. Eventually, it gets whittled down to however many shows they need that season. And those shows, the presentations that have been edited and finished to sell those shows, go to a meeting in New York. It's usually at a big theater. The president of the entertainment division gives the presentation. At that time, what would be known as the network advertisers would show up and watch and pick out the shows they like, because they are buying time in these shows earlier than they're going to air. So you had to entice them to buy time in your show. So that after that, then there is a meeting with all of the affiliate stations that are under the same umbrella of your network. So the NBC affiliates and the ABC affiliates and the Fox affiliates and the CBS affiliates all gather in whatever city they pick that year. And then they're kind of shown the same thing and shown the lineup. And so I'm trying to remember, there was a show once upon a time that was going on the air and everybody thought it was really great. And the Southern stations didn't want to carry it. And for the life of me, I honestly can't even remember which show it was, but many of them didn't. They just said, no, we don't like the show. We're not going to carry the show. So it at least gave them an opportunity to see what it was all about and decide, no, we're not going to do this. So does that answer?
Yeah, and also I imagine at that time the kind of the regional, as you just mentioned, with the South kind of declining a show, that was important, right? Like that was not a small thing. That was like a major hit to a prospective show.
It was. And then if the ratings were good enough, I wish I could tell you what the show is, because I thought about this the other day and it kind of like went in one ear and out the other, but it was like, oh yeah, that show. They didn't like that show, but then that show got terrific ratings. So all of a sudden it was showing up on stations in the South again. Okay.
Money talks.
Doesn't it? It does.
All of it? The 2 whole shillings?
I couldn't help it. There was this girl. She was so pretty.
But I'm starving.
You tell me if there's anything I didn't cover that you feel would wrap things up.
Do you have any other questions, Peter?
No, I think I'm good there. But honestly, this has been a really interesting conversation. I mean, it's oftentimes these little details that I just find so fascinating. Especially about these early selling processes of the show. It's a big question mark for us in terms of like those very early days. So it's been great.
It's an important part of the history too, and the history of the television, the business. I think there's so much talk now about how the industry is changing and how the model may or may not be broken, but people don't necessarily actually know what the old model was or how it worked, because they weren't around or they're not old enough. So they're just sort of calling back to something that they don't really understand.
To illustrate what you're talking about, when I talk to my friends that still work in marketing and promotion, and I'll say, "Oh, I saw such and such a promo and I heard that they used blah, blah, blah song." I said, "Wow, like where did they get that kind of money?" Because a long time ago, using a popular song meant you had to spend a lot of money to get the rights. And my friend said, "Oh, you don't understand. Now anybody will sell you their songs because if they're old enough, they're just wanting money." Okay.
Well, I can tell you, doing this at a network now, a lot of those things have changed. A lot of the form of it is the same. We still have upfronts, we still have affiliate presentations, but there's also cable distributors which have on-demand services, and there are streamers, and you'll have deals with streamers for the content, and there's ad inventory on the streaming side, which is different from on the linear side, but still important. So it's a very chaotic space that isn't particularly glamorous because most of the really big shows, the popular shows, aren't on networks. They're streaming shows, or they're on like HBO premium cable. So it's, I think, some of the same stresses and some of the same like burdens, but without perhaps as much as the payoff as there might have been in 1992 or 1995 or even 2000 in the days of Sabrina the Teenage Witch and so forth. So I think as people perhaps yearn for a time when, we'll say, the business might have been more profitable, I think they may not realize it was also a lot more work in some ways. I'm seeing a lot of people calling for the return of the 22 episode season, and I'm like, they're not going to hire more people, right?
And the sad thing is the 22 episode system replaced the 39 episode system that was in place in the 60s when everything was shot in black and white and on film.
That's absolutely.
How they got that all done and produced 39 episodes in a year, I don't know.
Speed, I think.
This was great, Pat. I've had so much fun just talking to you and getting to know you a little bit as part of this process.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me. And again, if you don't find any of this usable, it's okay.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time. Right now, actually, we're going to go over to another interview that we've conducted. Peter, I think you had the opportunity to speak to someone who was involved with Young Indy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, Daniel, a few months ago, I in Hollywood, I work as a producer for a documentary series, and part of those duties is to interview people and conduct interviews. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Bill Abbott. He's currently the president, CEO, founder of Great American Media, which produces a lot of Christmas movies, also a lot of movies that you might see on Hallmark or Lifetime, et cetera. And it's a very successful company, and he previously had been the president and CEO of the Hallmark Channel, and before that, he had worked for the Family Channel. Even though we were there to primarily talk about a documentary I'm working on related specifically to Christmas movies, which will be airing this Christmas season, I couldn't help but take a few moments to talk to him about his experiences working on Young Indiana Jones. Now, this would have been specifically for the movies of the week. The Family Channel aired 4 Young Indiana Jones television films between 1994 and 1996. Attack of the Hawkmen, Treasure of the Peacock's Eye, Travels with Father, and Hollywood Follies. Bill at the time would have been intricately involved with bringing Young Indiana Jones to the Family Channel, and he had some really interesting insights into the history of the show with that channel and some of the hurdles that they faced in the production. So I hope you'll enjoy this small, brief little moment that I had with Bill Abbott a few months ago. As someone who's getting all the stories I can about the Young Indiana Jones television series. Were you at the Family Channel when that show was on the air? Like, was that something you were involved with at all?
Yeah, I was.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, I'd love to learn more.
Well, so Family Channel had a few original series that were very popular at the time. They never reached, they were popular in certain areas. It would never reach didn't have the distribution at the time. Cable didn't have the distribution and the overall, I guess the best way to say it is reputation to have them become breakout hits. Cable was still viewed as the ugly stepchild. So you look at Border Town and you look at Zorro and That's My Dog and some of the shows that were successful, that were created through Family Channel. And that is, I guess the context I would give you is that there were a lot of creative people that were at the start of the overall cable business that that moved on to do great things. And Terry Botwick is one of those people who created a lot of those shows, went on to CBS, and ultimately has his own production company now. And, he's very successful and very talented. And the thinking at the time, was that original series would represent your brand, and Family Channel had westerns, mysteries, very similar to the formula we have here. It's at the end of the day, good always wins over evil, and it has to be appropriate for all members of the family, and that was the strategy there, and a lot of that content still resonates today.
Yeah, I know. I mean, me and a friend of mine who works over at marketing at Fox, we started up this podcast just about the Young Indiana Jones television series because, we loved it and thought it was incredibly creative, but kind of that Family Channel years is still a bit of a mystery because we haven't found anyone who could really speak about it. I was very fortunate in my career that I was running research at the time and got I had people that believed in me, and then I moved on to ad sales, and so I was there. Because I was in research, I had like a firsthand view of all the decision making that went into greenlighting a series. Or we paid a lot of money for the Waltons, for example, in 1991. That was a landmark deal, and it was the same time TNT was launching, believe it or not. And TNT came out with a number of those big Western dramas that were created. They were the epic storytelling 5-part series that did very, very well and put them on the map in a lot of ways. And so, I think that those days are very, it's so obvious now to look and see the success and say, well, that was obvious that would happen. But at that time, there was no guarantee. And certainly TNT didn't even have the distribution when it launched. It launched on the back of TBS, and Ted Turner, the ultimate visionary, just believed that movie studio, high quality drama on TV was something that was needed and would there be an appetite for, and boy, was he right. Last question, I promise I'll let you go here. I know you're a very busy person, but do you recall, was Young Indy successful for the Family Channel, or do you recall any details?
It was very expensive, and so, at the time, the cable model was just coming into focus. And so, the cost of original series, as they were always loss leaders because you could run them once, and then the appetite to see it again was not always as high as it was. It certainly wasn't as high as the first time. And a movie where people watch it over and over and over, generally original series don't work that way. So economically, I think it was challenging.
Yeah, we have noticed how the release schedule for it was a little wonky with the Family Channel. There was one per month for the first 3, and then the fourth one came out 9 months later, and it's very interesting. Right. But yeah, do you recall? Did they also air the previous episodes for the show as well on the Family Channel, or was it just the 4 movies that?
No, so we couldn't get the rights. We couldn't get the rights. So and again, the price was high, and B, they were secured someplace else. I don't remember where, but no place that did it justice for sure.
Okay, that's fantastic. All right, well, you've been super kind with your time. I really appreciate this. That's wonderful.
Good talking with you, and good luck with it. And happy to help in any way.
Thank you so much. Listeners out there want to get in touch with us? You can find us at Young Indy Pod on Instagram, and hope you'll rate us 5 stars on all your podcast feeds. We really appreciate it. Helps us keep going here. So for Daniel and myself, thank you very much for joining us. Till next time, keep the adventure alive.
Next time on the Young Indy Chroniclers.
We're thrilled to have Mr. Simon Windsor. This director made Free Willy, Operation Dumbo Drop, Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, Quigley Down Under, Phantom, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, and Lonesome Dove.
Who would say no to George Lucas anyway?
Well, you like to cast actors who would go on to appear in Casino Royale, apparently.
She kept pointing to Dan and saying, that guy's going to be a star. Look at his eyes. And there's a number of scenes, one of which I absolutely hate. There's an actress you might like, and her name is Catherine Zeta-Jones. So she sent me a tape, and, she's almost stark naked in every scene in the movie.